everyone, and welcome. Today, I'm very excited because we have a special guest. He is a president or owner of a bookkeeping company here in New York, and his company works with some of the city's most famous restaurants, including Bernardin, Buco, and Blue Hills, which is my best favorite restaurant in New York City. So, for many Japanese restaurant owners who want to open in the US, bookkeeping and taxes can feel very, very difficult, right? So, today we'll ask Jade some important question and get his advice as the expert. All right. Welcome, Jed. Thank you for coming.
Hi, Tomoko. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Wonderful. So you work with my three favorite restaurants, El
Yeah.
Buco, Bernardin, and Blue Hills. Do you go
Yes,
to the restaurant?
I do want to clarify. So Blue Hill is a client now of my company, and then before I started my company, I worked with El Buco and Le Bernardin, like in-house for them. And
Uh-huh.
and Blue Hill is a client of my company right now.
Yeah, it's my favorite restaurant. Do you
Yes.
pick the restaurant because you love the restaurant the most, or what? How that happened?
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's definitely important that they have good food, and Blue Hill definitely checks that mark. And yeah, for sure, it's been a pleasure working with them. You know, they're one of the top restaurants in the world. It's really been a great experience for myself and my company to be working with such a world-class operation. And yeah, the food there is always phenomenal. I like to go up to the Stone Barns location
Mm-hmm.
is really special because you can do a tour of the farm. You can do a meal in the kitchen. They have just like a beautiful landscape there. And then
Yeah.
the city location is cool. It's a little more intimate, a little more smaller. The meal isn't as extensive. The meal at Stone Barns is 4 hours, 5 hours,
Yeah.
like 25 to 30 courses.
Mhm.
While the meal in the city location is a little bit shorter,
Quick.
yeah, like 3 to 5 courses.
Yeah.
So yeah, but both are really cool, unique places, and yeah, it's just really special to be working with a place like that.
Wonderful. So, Jade, introduce yourself, please.
Great. So my background is in accounting. I got my CPA license when I worked as an auditor at BDO. My first accounting job was with restaurants, was with Buco a little bit more than 10 years ago. I was the finance controller there. I really fell in love with the restaurant industry there. I wasn't sure what, I sort of bounced around different accounting jobs, and I wasn't really sure what industry I really wanted to focus on. And then when I had my first job at Buco, I really just fell in love with the restaurant industry, the people, the passion that goes behind it. It's not a normal accounting job where you're sitting in a cubicle crunching numbers all day. You're really partnering with the chefs, the GMs, providing valuable insight, bridging that gap between, a lot of the operators in restaurants don't have that financial background. So it's really cool to be able to, take the data, take the information and distill it and present it to them in a way for them to understand it. So my first job was at Buco, and then I worked with other groups along the years, and then I started my company around 3.5 years ago. It's called Pines & Co., and we specialize in doing the outsourced bookkeeping for restaurants. As of today, I have 13 employees, and yeah, it's been a great experience so far.
Wonderful. Well, most of the time, the CPA or bookkeeper don't want to take a restaurant so much because it's so complicated and it used to be cash business a lot. And then, so when you said first client was Il Buco, there has 2 locations by then, correct?
Yeah, when I worked with them, it was around 2013. The Buco Elementary, which is on Great Jones, that opened for
Love that place too.
Justin Smiley was the chef at the time. They got 3 stars from the New York Times. As soon as they got the 3 stars, like the business really took off. The Bond Street location, has been around, I think it's 30 years at this point. That's just one of like the most classic New York restaurants there are. It's like, it's a great date spot for me if I ever need a nice place to go. And so they had those 2 locations. Since then, they've opened in Amagansett in Long Island, and then they also have a location in Ibiza as well.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. I see. Well, I'm jealous because, those restaurants are fantastic as well, Okay. So question number 1. From your experience working with the top restaurant in New York, like Bernardin, Buco, and Blue Hill, what financial habits or system do successful restaurants always have?
For sure. So successful restaurants, from my experience, have a strong financial background or a foundation, I should say.
You mean the chefs or the owners, or what do you mean by that?
Yeah, I mean like the books are in order. They understand the financials. Like we often start with companies where they didn't have a bookkeeper for a year or 2, and we'll work with them for 3 months, and they'll be like, wow, like I really wish that I had someone from the start, because if you don't have clean numbers, then you're pretty much flying blind as far as being able to run the business, to make decisions. Is labor too high? Is food cost too high? So that's definitely one great habit. A lot of owners that I see, run the business off the bank account. Is the bank account high? Oh, things must be good. If bank account is low, things must be bad. But there really is so much more than just looking at a bank balance. The bank balance might be high, but what if you have a big loan payment coming out the next day? Or what if you have a huge balance that you owe to your vendors that you have to pay within the next week? So there's the two ways of accounting: accrual basis and cash basis. So we recommend accrual basis because you really get a more accurate picture of expenses and revenue in the period that they're incurred, as opposed to just looking at a cash balance and thinking it's high, it's good, it's low, it's bad. So having that foundation of organized books, we always recommend having some sort of a weekly flash report, just to really have a more real time view of the numbers, as opposed to just using monthly P&Ls. So on the weekly flash reports, we generally focus on COGS and labor, which are the 2 biggest expenses for a restaurant. They can make up 60-70% of total revenue. So really drilling in on those 2 each week, I think is really important. Another habit that we find beneficial is taking inventory, just to make sure that your COGS are correct. Because if you don't count inventory, there's the potential for theft. There's there's really a lot of holes that could go unnoticed if you're not really taking inventory. And I think taking inventory also shows your staff that that you care, that you're putting in the time to make sure that nothing goes missing. So I think that component is pretty important as well, just as part of the culture of the restaurant, that the staff knows that the owners really are watching and care about the numbers.
Right. Wow. Well, you covered a lot, actually. It was fantastic. Thank you. So, 2 things I wanted to mention is that magic number at labor and cost of goods sold, right? But you mentioned 60, 70%. But having a restaurant in New York and rent became nowadays like not the magic number of 7%, more than 10%, and sometimes like the great location could be 20% after COVID and stuff, right? So that's pretty tough to allow 70%, I would say. But how the successful restaurants numbers are for that?
Yeah, I mean, 20 years ago, the benchmark for profit was 15, 20%, and now, like you said, all the expenses are through the roof. Rent, insurance, labor has gone up significantly. The minimum wage goes up every year. Cost of goods sold, all the food, beverage purchases. So it's really become a lot more challenging to be profitable. So that's why it's really important to have a hand on the numbers, just to make sure that there's no leaks, no waste. You really need to, be really tight in order to be profitable nowadays.
Yeah, that's probably the reason you would think much of the week snapshot instead of monthly P&L to really see the differences and to be aware of those numbers at the operation wise, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And if we review the weekly sheet and we see that labor is high and that let's say for next week we have the same schedule that's planned, but the projections show that the sales are going to be the same as the week we just looked at, then it gives us an opportunity to maybe tweak the schedule a bit, just to make sure that our labor isn't so high each week. So there's a lot of valuable insight that you can get from the numbers to help you run the business more efficiently.
Exactly. Fantastic. The very, very good point. Like keep watching the inventory as well. Some restaurant owner just to put the cog, not the cogs, so that the numbers skewed a little bit there because they don't account the inventory in the proper way. Do you agree?
Yeah, for sure. Because I mean, if you buy a whole ton of inventory, a whole ton of product, but you don't sell it, it's going to be sitting in inventory. But if you look at your cost of goods sold, it's going to be really high, and that information really isn't that useful. So we like to think about theoretical costs. What should our COGS be, and then compare it to what they actually are. And then let's say we know all of our wine by the glass is costed at 25%, but our wine cost is 35%. Where is that 10% coming from? So we really like to look at the numbers in that way to see where things aren't going as planned.
Yeah. Wonderful thing is you're talking about really the number speaks. When you look at the numbers, you almost can watch or can see the story from the operation, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the numbers don't lie, even if you can't see it, but if it hit the bank account or the credit card, then it happens. So, you can be sitting. You don't have to be in the restaurant to really know what's actually going on in the restaurant, as long as you have access to the numbers that are accurate.
Exactly. Wow, Jade. Wow. That was only question number one, and then you covered so much, and then the very valuable information here. Thank you so much. All right, so I'm going to proceed to the question number two, because this could be the series of it, because you covered so much, the wonderful information, and then only for the question number one. It's all right.
I'll try not to cover so much on this question.
No. Keep being yourself. No, I love it. No, don't get me wrong. You're doing a fantastic job. So, question number two. For a new restaurant owner, what are the most important things to understand about U.S. tax and reporting?
Yeah, for sure. So one of the most important things to understand is sales tax. That's really important because it's money that we're collecting that isn't ours. So we need to remember that that anytime that we see that money in our account, that we need to remit it to the government. So we like to either have a separate bank account for it, just to account for it separately, or just send it weekly directly to the government, just so it's out of our sight. We know that we paid it. We know we don't have to worry about it. Sales tax audits are pretty common nowadays. So another part of that is making sure that your point of sale is set up correctly with the correct rates. We often see that when we start with the restaurant, that the point of sale isn't collecting the correct tax rate. Sometimes items might not even be taxed at all. So really making sure that you're compliant from a sales tax perspective is extremely important. There's payroll taxes as well, to make sure you sign up for unemployment. In New York City, there's the MCTMT tax. There's federal payroll taxes. So really making sure that you're set up correctly in that sense. There's your unemployment rate can change as well, and so you need to make sure that's updated with your payroll company, because if it's not, then you might not be collecting or charging the right amount, and then in 3 months you might get a bill that that your settings were incorrect and that you owe a lot of money. So making sure that payroll taxes are set up correctly is extremely important as well. New York City also has a commercial rent tax. If there's certain rent thresholds where that applies in certain parts of Manhattan. So really just being aware if you're in the territory where commercial rent tax applies is very important.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Fantastic. Right. So you actually almost covered the question number 3 too, but I will ask you anyway. So what are the benefits of outsourcing bookkeeping, and what risks do owners face if they try to do it themselves, like including, all those changes, and then you would probably can let them know what are changes and a reminder of to pay the sales tax and everything, right? So do you have any additional that the information of this question number 3?
Yeah, for sure. The accuracy and compliance is a big part of it. Restaurants are definitely very unique industry. So, hiring people that really focus on that and understand it is definitely extremely important. For us, we're not an employee of your company, so you don't have to worry about giving us health insurance, payroll taxes, paid time off, that sort of thing. We have the resources available, if somebody's out, to make sure that they're covered. Another thing is the benchmarking part of it. If we work with a lot of restaurants, so we can really compare how one restaurant is doing to another and say, your payroll is really high compared to a similar size restaurant in the neighborhood. So that sort of that benchmarking is pretty important as well. And
That's a great point. That's a great point, Jed, because we got to compare apple to apple, not the fast food versus the premier, like Bernardin. You know what I mean? So that's a very, very good point.
Yeah, for sure. And then just the scalability as well. Let's say you want to add one location, you don't need but your current team can't handle it. You don't want to hire another full-time person, because it's only a small amount of additional work that's involved. So, with the outsourcing, it helps to scale and while also keeping the cost in line and not getting too high of a, too much W2 labor internally, which costs more, with the benefits and payroll taxes and all that stuff.
I see. Sure. All right. So the question number 4 would be, well, in New York,
Yeah.
surviving 1 year could be gold or silver at the least, right? And then 3 years would be gold, and then 5 years platinum, right?
Yeah.
What are the common mistakes do you see with the new restaurant in their first year of their business?
Yeah, starting undercapitalized is definitely a major issue. Not realizing that that for the first 6 months or 12 months, you're going to be burning cash, and make sure that you have that cash reserve available. A lot of the times, yeah, during the build out, there's unexpected costs as well. So just to really do your due diligence when you're raising the money, just to make sure that you have enough cash for the build out, and then for after you open, for the first year, or just to be able to, keep the doors open while you're getting traction, getting the name out there, building the sales. So that's very important. Keeping, a lot of restaurant owners just don't think bookkeeping is important. So they don't, in the first year, they don't even really have that. They think that they can just, run the business and just sort of figure it out. So definitely recommend having some sort of bookkeeping in place.
So that lead me to the question number 5, Jed, is when is the best time for a restaurant owner to bring in a bookkeeper or accountant so they can focus on growing their business?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, for me, I would say as early as possible, because, I think what we do is important. If you don't want to have anyone for the pre-opening, I would say at least by the time that the doors open, just to make sure that, you're going to be compliant with sales tax, payroll taxes. Make sure you can get some reporting set up, right away. You don't want to be flying blinds from the start. So I would say at the latest, upon opening, and then if you can do it a little bit sooner, that would certainly be beneficial. But I would say definitely, by the time you're ready to open the doors, to have someone lined up that, can be a partner that helps,
Right.
get the business going.
Well, in my experience though, Jed, like once the door is open, they get so busy, forget about their booking. So even you mentioned the built out has a lot of expenses, right? Before they open the restaurant, and especially New York world, they get sometimes the construction gets longer than they expected. And if we don't have enough funding there for the first year, they might need to close even before they have the grand opening, right? So in that sense, like, is there any way they can work before the build out, even though there was no income? But what's the best way for the owner to ask you for the bookkeeping during that time?
Sorry, what's the best way for them to ask for the bookkeeping before?
Yeah, because there is not gonna be like an everyday transaction like once they open that restaurant, no operation, no sales, every
Yeah.
single day. But the quite a time they do have in the build up, right?
Yeah,
But
for sure. Yeah, so
right,
for that, the pre-opening, will get capitalized. So you do want to make sure that everything is set up properly for your taxes, to make sure, that everything's coded properly for, when the tax accountant is doing his depreciation schedules, if it's leasehold improvements, equipment, just to make sure, it's all being coded properly, on the balance sheet. And like you said, it's the volume of transactions pre-opening is a lot less than after they open, but and the amount of time involved is, from a bookkeeping side, is a lot less. But it's definitely important just to make sure, because if, let's say, you're doing it yourself, the books are going to be a mess from the start, and then
right,
a bookkeeper is going to have to come in and clean it up, and then it'll probably
right,
cost more to
more,
have them actually clean it
right.
up instead of actually doing it clean from the start.
Right. So when is that the best timing for the restaurant owner to bring a bookkeeper? Like if it's not the grand open, when it's that you
Yeah,
can calculate the depreciation and all that.
yeah, yeah. I mean, when they open the bank account, as soon as they start having transactions on it,
Mhm.
then you can set up a QuickBooks account or whatever accounting software they use, and then keep it clean from the start. So
Mhm. Exactly. So that's the ideal world, and then but a lot of the restaurant owner would be afraid that there's no such so much transaction, but do I have to pay the bookkeeper and the CPA if we outsource them, right? So what's the best way for them to be scared of like a start early and investing early, I would say. I don't want to say spending or wasting that sort of a terminology because it is now, I definitely agree with you the having beautiful financial is the way for them to succeed that business moving forward. You know.
mhm.
So what would be your side of the advice for the owners?
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty low, like the pre-opening bookkeeping costs are a pretty low investment. So as far as what could go wrong, I mean, I think just having a just a second eye on the bank account is pretty helpful. There's definitely some potential for fraud, or for payments to go out. Uh, all the vendors will definitely just try to screw you over. I mean, a lot of them do. So I think just having a second eye on everything pre-opening, making sure that you're not overpaying for things. Just I think that part is important. And I mean, is it? It's not like the end of the world, if you don't have a bookkeeper from the start. But I think part of it is also sort of just building that rapport with your bookkeeper, and sort of them getting familiar with you and how you run. And then once the restaurant is open, you guys are in sync. You can really hit the ground running from there.
Sounds good. All right. Thank you, Jed, for sharing your information.
Of
And
course.
everyone, thank you for watching. I hope this tip be helpful for your success in your business. All right. Jed, thank you for your time and see you next time.
Yes, thank you, and I hope everyone maybe learned something today.
Oh, you
And
did. Yeah, of course they did. Yeah, thank you so much. All right, everyone. Thank you for joining us and see you next time.